My name is Scott Wilson. I'm currently 60 years old, and this happened 3.5 years ago on July 4th of 2019. And I was actually sitting right here on this couch in this spot. And it was morning, about 7 o'clock in the morning. And I developed a pain. Actually, it started on my back, behind my heart. And it just kept getting worse. And I got up to go to the stairs, which is the light right behind me. Oh no, it's not the stairs. Anyway, and went to go up the stairs, and I couldn't make it up the stairs. And I just collapsed on the stairs and called for my wife. And now my wife has been an emergency nurse for her entire life. So she had a real good idea of what was going on and what should be done for me. Of course, she called 911 right away. And I laid on the stairs trying to be comfortable in incredible pain. And you know, my wife says that it was the most pain until they got me into surgery. I was going through the most pain she'd ever seen anybody be in. And yet my whole memory of the event is nothing but wonderful. You know, the pain really wasn't an issue. In my memory of the event, the pain wasn't an issue. It was just the most glorious thing. And how can you go through something like this and not feel like something bad happened to you? But I felt like nothing but good happened to me. The emergency techs got to me, the paramedics, and they got me on a stretcher, and of course they fought and fought to get me to lay flat on my back, and that was extremely painful. And by then I think my brain wasn't getting a lot of circulation, and the pain, I just wasn't myself. And as rumor has it, that I started fighting with the paramedics. And I guess it took them 20 minutes to get me loaded and on the way to the hospital. And maybe that adrenaline helped keep me alive. And I was sweating so profusely, they couldn't get their 12 leads to stick. So they didn't know what kind of event I was having. They get the 12 leads on, they can tell whether it's a heart attack or something else. And they couldn't get a 12 lead for a long time. And they eventually got the 12 lead reading while I was in the ambulance on the road. And then they saw that it wasn't a heart attack, so they knew it had to be something like an aneurysm, and that's what it was. I had what they call the AAA, which is an ascending aortic aneurysm, which is not generally easy to survive. And what had happened was the aorta has 3 layers to it, and the inner layer developed a hole or an aneurysm, and then it started to fill with blood, and it ballooned, and the ballooning blocked the entire passage to the rest of my body, so blood couldn't get from my heart out to anywhere. Now I was 57 at the time, and an avid bicyclist all my life. I'm strong, I'm in good shape. I didn't have any trouble. So all this was just out of the blue, a surprise. And the blockage was met by the force of my heart, and it literally exploded in my chest, the complete rupture. And it was such a horrific thing. The surgeon later talked to me about what he had seen. He said it was like a bomb had gone off in my chest. I don't want to do anything that would place blame on anybody anywhere, but there was a comedy of errors in getting me to where I could get the care I needed. And they ended up taking me to an emergency room in a hospital that had no operating room. So they couldn't do anything for me. And then there was some confusion about what was actually going on with me. And long story short, it took them 4.5 hours to get me to a hospital that had the facilities to give me the surgery I needed. And how do you survive 4 hours with your aorta ruptured in your chest. I mean, I've heard stories that it can happen when you're actually in the operating room and they still can't save you. But with all that going on, I had moments of clarity, and I was drifting in and out, and my wife was with me the whole time. And I remember telling her, you know, honey, I can't feel my feet anymore. I can't feel my legs anymore. Now I can't feel my left arm anymore. And we both have medical experience, so I knew I was telling her I'm dying, but I didn't want to use those words because death was just not something I was ready to accept. And I think that whole mindset that I was not ready to die played a role throughout my whole experience. And anyway, I knew she would know that that's what I was saying too, and she did. Anyway, I had another moment of clarity when they were finally wheeling me into the operating room to fix me. And I remember them saying, his wife is coming in a car right behind. She can sign all the consent forms, you know, for surgery. And I just pushed everybody aside and sat up and signed my own consent form. And that's another key thing to remember, because that played a role later on, that I was able to be conscious enough to sign my own consent form at that moment. And then they wheeled me into the operating room, and I assume they already had IVs in me, and they put something in the IV that took me out, and boom, I was on the other side, just that quick. You know, it makes you wonder what actually has to happen for your spirit to leave your body. Because people pass out, people do all kinds of things, and sometimes it's like the littlest thing and the spirit leaves the body for a second, comes back. So that was one question that came up from my experience that I still haven't quite answered. So I'm on the other side, and I'm looking around, and it is a beautiful jungle lagoon, and there's beautiful plants everywhere around, and plants I'd never seen before, colorful, radiant, almost full of energy. And I'm looking around, I'm by myself, just looking around, checking everything out. And I know that I'm on the other side. I know that I never used the word die, but I knew I had left my body and was on the other side. And I'm just like, okay, I'm not going any further. I'm just staying here because I'm getting back. There's just no question. I got to get back. I just had this insisted that I was getting back. I don't know why, but I had to get back. And this lagoon was there, and then at the edge of the lagoon was like an opening to maybe the ocean, but at that opening was this brilliant light coming in, and it was just making everything around me just radiate in this brilliance. And pretty soon I started to realize I wasn't alone. I could see or sense presence staying behind some of the bushes, not letting me actually see it. And then it started to talk to me. And I call them entities, but from everything I've read, they were by every description angels. But in my mindset, they seemed like entities. And one of them was talking to me and just said, just calm down. Everything's going to be okay. Just try to, lay down and rest. And I was having none of it. I just said, I got to get back. I got to get back. And they basically were trying to tell me anything I needed to hear to calm down and to just rest. And the one entity that did all the talking told me, you can go back anytime you want, but you should stay here, and we'll answer any questions you have. And, I asked it, well, what is this place? I mean, it has matter, there's objects, but it's also different. Everything has a softness to it. And the entity said to me, he said, on the other side, in the earthly realm, the matter and atoms are all held together by your laws of physics, and it's all controlled over there. And over here, everything is assembled with the energy of the unconditional love you have for others and they have for you. And that is what has made this place, and it is here for you to heal. So I'm looking around and trying to just get a grip and still absolutely not accept the fact that, I'm not accepting the fact that I'm dying. And I finally said to him, I want to go back. You said I can go back anytime. I want to go back. And boy, they just said, not a good idea. And I said, you said I could. And of course they had, and so they let me go back. And so they guided me back along an interesting path. At this point, I had not seen any kind of a tunnel, but that comes up. And then I found myself on the ceiling of the operating room over my body. And I'm looking down, and there's so many doctors, so many people working. And one doctor said to another doctor, why are we doing this? He's gone. And the doctor said, he just signed his own consent form. He's still viable. And if I hadn't had that moment of clarity to sign that consent form, they may not have worked to save me, because I was gone. The doctor later, after I'd recovered, came in my room and told me it was like a bomb had gone off in my chest. And he basically leaned forward and said, Scott, nobody has ever survived what you've been through. And so what they had done was, everything was so shredded, they could restore, put my body on the pump and stuff, but they couldn't restore circulation to my brain. And this was brand new stuff. This doctor had just gotten back from some big convention where they were learning about this cryogenics and freezing body parts so they could have more time to work on them. The parts could be without oxygen for longer without dying. And what they did was they drained all of the blood out of my brain and filled it with cryogenic fluid and froze my brain. So that's what I think is really unique about my experience is, a lot of people say, well, the near-death experience is an artifact of the brain not having oxygen or the brain starting to die. And in my case, my brain was frozen. I had 0 brain waves. So everything I experienced, I know, was from my consciousness that was separate from my body. Anyway, I saw that going on and the uselessness of it, and I was able to travel around. And I went and I found my wife, and I watched what she was doing. She was actually driving around in her car looking for a place to get gas, and I followed her for a while. And I later just said, there's nothing for me here right now. So I went back to go rest. And that's when I had to go through the tunnel to get back again. Somehow I took the express route the first time, but I went through the tunnel. And for me, it was like a square hallway going upward. And every so often was this veil of energy that you had to pass through. And it was a little difficult to pass through. You had kind of had to fight my way to get through it. And as I got through the veil of energy, it's like a portion of reality changed. And every time I went through, it changed. And I finally got through to the other side. And I said, well, I guess I'll lie down and rest. And the entities were there, and they said, great. So I laid down on the ground in the dirt, and it just embraced me and just held me. And the energy from that light came through, and it was just so incredible. And that's when I realized I was laying in the hand of God, and I'm no Bible expert, but didn't God make man out of dirt? It just felt really interesting that I was laying there in the dirt being healed by the energy of God. And I don't know what was in my spirit body that needed to be healed, but certainly It was connected to something that was going on. And I laid there for a while, and then pretty soon I got up. It's like, I got to get back. I can't spend too much time here. I got to get back. And the entity said, not yet. Just rest. It's okay. So I rested again, and I got up like that about 3 or 4 times and just kept saying, not yet. And then finally I got up again, looked around, no one was there. No one was there. And I'm like, well, if no one's here saying no, then I'm going to take it as a yes, I can go back. But I didn't know how to get back. So I just followed my instinct of where it felt like I had been, and followed, and it wasn't easy. It was a confusing environment, and I didn't recognize anything, but I just wanted to get back. And then I woke up in the recovery room. First I could hear, and I could hear my wife saying some things, and that she would be back soon, but she had to go do something. And then I opened my eyes, and I saw a nurse with their back to me writing something on a whiteboard, and I had all kinds of tubes going into me, because they had literally had to take all the pieces of my aorta out, lay them on a table, and get some Dacron, and they sewed me a new aorta out of Dacron, all while my brain was frozen, and then they thawed me out or something. I had so many tubes, it was just unbelievable. And of course I had a respirator in, and that was the first thing to go. So I tug on it, nothing hurts, so I just keep pulled my tube out. And finally the nurse turns around and looks at me and kept big, wide-eyed, and they had to put me on some special oxygen thing so I was getting enough oxygen. And then it was, I think, partly because my brain had been frozen, that my consciousness didn't know where everything was. I was pretty with it the first few minutes, but then I went really crazy, and for like 2 weeks I was completely insane. And I don't know how my wife put up with it. I was completely insane. But slowly I came back and started functioning normally, and actually, it's like I said, it's just been 3 years, and even now my wife's saying, boy, you've really improved in the past week or so. Just my functioning, aspects of my personality. I was in the hospital for a month getting well enough to come home, and when I got home I was just looking around at everything, and I started getting dizzy. And so right away my wife took me in. They did a complete brain scan, and they found 9 clots on the left side of my brain, one large clot on the right side, and they said the whole frontal lobe was a contiguous bruise, and that I likely had stroked at least twice during surgery. The doctor looks at this and he just says, Scott, and he's looking at my body. He goes, people with this much brain damage don't get out of bed ever again. They're vegetables. He couldn't understand how I was functioning normally. So there's just so much that is just, the doctors don't understand how I survived. I had one of the doctors come in saying, I just had to see you. You should be dead. I don't know how you're here. I feel like I'm in the presence of a saint. There's so many of those little things that happened that had to happen for me to stay alive, and it's all just, I'm meant to be here by a power that is everything. And it's so, and people always ask me, Scott, why do you think you're here? Why did you come back? It's clearly you're here for a reason. And I just go, well, obviously I haven't drank enough beer and watched enough TV. And every night when I lay down to sleep, I go back to that to laying down in that dirt and being in the hand of God. And when I lay down to sleep every night, I go back there and I lay down and fall asleep in the hand of God. And I just feel so blessed, so blessed. But the one thing about, saying all this is that, yeah, my being here is this incredible miracle. But you know what? Everybody's being here is just as much of an incredible miracle. Whether you died and came back, or that you were just born and are alive at all, it's all just such an incredible miracle. And that's the greatest thing that I've come back with from my experience.
So how has this experience changed your life? Like what you do, has it impacted your life in any way? In the way you do things, the way you interact with people, the way you tackle issues, problems?
Well, I think I'm a lot more tolerant and understanding of people's mistakes, but I'm also less apt to put up with people who are trying to lie or cheat to me, people who are not being sincere with me. I'm actually less tolerant of that, but more forgiving of those who, are sincere and have made honest mistakes. There's more meaning to everything, and I see almost divine serendipity in events that unfold. I see more meaning behind things that might have seemed meaningless before. I'm just looking deeper all the time. I'm able to see deeper.
So are you looking forward to going back there?
Well, not really looking forward to it, because I still have that drive to be here for whatever reason. I know I belong here. And maybe that's another difference too. With every day that goes forward, I know that I belong here. And this is where I need to be right now. I have absolutely no fear of going back there. And I know when the time is right, it'll be the right time. So that's no fear.
Many people I've spoken with, and some other NDEs they all say that they look forward to going back to that peace and joy. So you're actually the first person.
Yeah, like I said, when I lay down at night to go to sleep, I just mentally go back to that place when I was laying in the hand of God, and I'm there again. I really am. And I've often pondered, what is it? What is the separation between this, where we're at here, and what we call the other side? And because it all seems like it's all kind of the same, but there's just a different energy. So would it be possible to get to the other side and experience it without dying? I don't know. I mean, people have tried drugs and things, but I think just meditation kind of takes us at least one step in that direction. But I have no burning desire to get back there at all. I'm just really glad that I experienced it. I know that it's there. And, I really feel like the entity said, that it was the energy, the unconditional love I had for others. And I hadn't heard that term unconditional love and that was the first time I heard that term. And when I got back home, I started doing a lot of Googling about it. And unconditional love is a phenomenal subject. But that it was that energy that I had that created my experience on the other side. It's like time and space were fluid, and that my energy formed the reality over there. So I think, to build as much positive energy in your life here now that will be with you when you go to the other side. And I really believe that if you have terrible energy, you're going to create a bad place. But I think the place that every NDE goes. Some people just make it to the tunnel and are turned away. But some people get to this place where I was, and it's kind of like the first door or the first room, and nobody seems to ever go past that and come back. So I'm just in this place where reality is changed by my energy and creates this realm. And I really feel like if I had gone towards that light or it was in a place where I couldn't walk to it. It was off the water. But if I had gone into that light, I don't think I would have come back. So this is kind of like it almost reminds you of Purgatory, where you create this place with the energy you brought from the world. And that's where your first experience is. But I don't think anybody ever goes past that and comes back.
That's great to know. There was a time I lost my son, and I also lost my younger brother. So, but since I started, that was actually the reason why I started researching and doing all this research about NDE. And now my mind is more at rest, knowing that they are somewhere better than here. You know, I'm a Christian. I believe in the concept of heaven, although I don't believe in hell. Or I believe that when we die, we go somewhere. But you know, when you have, there are some kind of sorrows that you're just looking for things to comfort you. So that was a reason I started researching and reading more about these NDEs. And from the more I hear people's stories, the more I'm convinced that there's a better place, a better world waiting for us. But what I still don't understand is, why are we here in the first place? If there's a better world out there, why are we here? What are we doing here?
Well, like I said, the unconditional love that I had, and you know, I'm a massage therapist, and you know, I work on a variety of people I don't necessarily agree with. You know, people will talk when they're getting a massage, and I can quickly tell their political orientation and all this and that. And some people just are not the kind of people that I enjoy being friends with, but I'm there to serve as a healer, and that's takes precedence. And so I tap into my love for the fellow human being in spite of any personal issues I have with them. And I really spend a lot of time just focusing on that love I have for a fellow human being. And I really think that helped me have that strong sense of unconditional love that helped create the reality on the other side. And like you said, you don't believe in hell, but I think if you had terrible energy and you died, you could manifest a pretty terrible place. I don't know. I didn't see any loved ones. I didn't see any animals. Those are common questions people asked, but I don't think it would be at all impossible. Everybody's experience is unique, and it's what they need to have. And I think that we are incredible, powerful creators, and that God has taken away the fluidity of time and space and created this physical realm where time and space are defined for us in a very linear fashion. And we spend all of our mental energy trying to find formulas and calculations of working with this reality, when I think the true reality, time and space, are fluid, and our energy controls and manifests reality. And you know, from what I see of mankind right now, or actually mankind throughout the ages, we are not at all ready to be in an environment where our energy manifests. So I am very thankful that we are here in this controlled environment to learn how to tune in with our unconditional love. And you know, like I said, the whole experience was just this wonderful thing full of love and all. But you know what? God gave us a whole host of emotions, not just love. Grief, for example. Everybody knows how to handle love. And well, I guess people need to learn how to love. People need to learn how to tap into unconditional love. But I think we also should spend as much time learning how to deal with grief or anger. God gave us those emotions, and I think it's important that we say, how would God deal with this emotion? Because I think God has emotions. God made us in his image and likeness in many ways. And I think it's as important to learn how to deal with your what we would call negative emotions in a godly way. In fact, we probably need to spend more time working on that than anything else.